Hey, Ashley.
Hey,
So happy to finally have you here on the Astrology
I
Show.
I'm so excited to do this. We've been like planning it for so long and now it's actually happening. We're here.
Yes, we have our joints. We
Yeah.
got the technical stuff sorted out, which is always a thing. Sorry for the clicking. I'm lighting this J with this cute Scorpio torch lighter.
That is really cute.
So yeah, welcome. I'm so excited to talk astrology with you, talk about your chart. Um, And if you don't know Ashley already, Ashley is, I'm going to have you introduce yourself, but
Yeah.
I at least know you as a comedian.
I think
Um,
yeah, that's the big one. I'm a comic, a writer, TV critic. I mostly do stand up all over the
Podcaster.
place. Podcaster. I have a podcast called TV I Say, where I interview people from my favorite shows. And then I write for places all over, interview people. You can read me mostly on Vulture these days, but I do profiles for like The Cut and Elle and stuff like that. Yeah,
Awesome. Yes, all the
and I
things.
love astrology, so
And
that's
yeah, that's
also
kind of
that.
how I first like you came into my radar through Nicole Byers' podcast, Why Won't You Date Me, which is one of my favorites. And it's also one of those podcasts where I'm like yelling at, my phone, being like, every time Nicole talks about like her love life and like she went to some psychic and some tarot reader, some astrologer, I'm like, come to me. I will tell
Yeah,
you when you're gonna meet the
let
love of your
me.
life. But
Yeah,
irregardless, you were on an episode and you were talking, you kind of mentioned astrology a little bit, and I was just like, oh my gosh, I have to follow this person. And
yeah.
then our mutual friend Stevie, shout out What's Your Sign podcast, Stevie Anderson, like right when everyone started to get vaxxed, had a party, and that's when we met in person.
Yeah, my long friend Stevie, loves Stevie so much. Yeah, had talked a little bit about a project I did back when I lived in Chicago, and I think actually when I still knew Stevie when she lived there too. I did a project where I dated every zodiac sign a month at a time
Right.
for a year. So I talked about that with Nicole, and yeah, just how that was a crazy time in my life, but it was a lot of fun. I don't know that I learned anything, but I had a good time. So
Yeah. Wait, so can you talk a little bit more about that and like how that came to be? And
yeah,
also when was it? Because I want to look at the astrology of all of this.
yeah. So gosh, it was like 2017. I'm polyamorous, and at the time, I like wasn't in any serious relationships. I'd had like a series of just kind of bad, like situationships, and I was kind of tired of it. Um, I like had been dating a lot of people who wanted to just like rush into monogamy, and I was like, no, that's not my thing. So I'd come up with these like very strict rules of like I want to get to like force myself to date people. And then a friend of mine was like, I don't know, your rules, you could do something more fun with this. And I don't exactly like know. I like it kind of was just a joke. I was like, yeah, like what if I like dated every zodiac sign or something? And then I was like, wait, what if I did do that like a month at a time? Like that was part of the rules. Like I'm only dating, Leos from this period to this period. And so I reached out to some astrologers that I knew, because I like love astrology. I like went to astrology camp when I was a kid.
Oh my
Like I read
God.
my horoscope and stuff. I know how to kind of read natal charts. I'm not super great at it, but I at least like know the basics. So I was like, okay, let me like talk to some experts and see when would be the best time to do this, because obviously most people would think during the sun sign you date that sign, but I was like, no way. Like I don't want to date people during their birthday. That's
Right.
gross.
That's a lot.
So I dated them when Venus was in their sign, which in
That's smart.
2017, yeah, I think was like 2 months or a month before the sun was in that sign. So I started with like Pisces
Okay.
and then just worked my way through the zodiac.
Wow. Do you have any like takeaways?
Uh, the only sign, so there were there was the only sign I couldn't get to agree, because I told people from the beginning what I was doing. Like it was no surprise. I would be like, "Hey, I'm doing this experiment. So like, if you're a Leo, we date for a month, like see, whatever. And then when I'm done with the experiment, if we still like each other, we could go out." The only sign I couldn't get to agree was Virgos. No Virgo would say yes to that. They all were like, absolutely not. You're a crazy person.
Oh my
Um,
God.
but I don't know. I think like, because I would also keep track of their full natal charts because I was like, you can't just look at like someone's sun sign. So I had like a full chart of like, okay, like what Mercury do I seem to identify with? And honestly, none of it really shocked me. Like the people I really liked were people who kind of like balanced my chart out. Like people, like I have a ton of Aries moon friends. I of course fell in love with like two Aries moons during this.
Stevie's an Aries
Stevie's an
moon.
Aries moon, yeah.
I'm an Aries
So
moon.
yeah, so it was like another one of those things where I was like, oh yeah, I'm still just like attracted to the people I would be, and then the signs that I was kind of like, oh yeah, Capricorns. I dated one Capricorn my month with them, and it was just this one girl who was like, I'm just intrigued by your project, and she like helped set up my like VLOOKUP in my Excel spreadsheet.
Oh my
And she
God.
was just like very like, I'm really interested to see where this goes. Like, hit me up someday. And when I was like reading an excerpt from the book I ended up writing, she came and she was just like, oh, that was like way more emotional than scientific, like I thought it was going to be. And I was just like, cool.
Yeah.
And we never spoke again. But you know, she's out there. I hope she enjoyed it. So
That's amazing. Oh my God. Okay. Yeah. We actually kind of dived. I always do that. One or the other.
no
We
idea.
we jumped in without saying your SMR. So do you want to say your sun, moon, and rising?
I'm a Sagittarius sun, Aries moon, and a Scorpio rising.
Awesome. With Mars in Gemini as
Yes,
the
Mars and
chart
Gemini.
ruler, retrograde.
Oh yeah.
We got a Mars retrograde in Gemini coming up later this year, which we can talk about. But yeah, I mean, you might hear those of you out there who know some astrology, you might hear, okay, Sag Sun, Aries Moon. I get it. I get the comedian part.
Yes.
Right. But the thing is like where it is in your chart is it's what makes it like a career for you, in my opinion. Because first of all, let me get out of this view. I'm like looking at your transits. But so yeah, you're Scorpio rising. You have Pluto like on the ascendant. So what I would call a Plutonian.
Yes.
But you're less intense than most Plutonians that, do you feel yourself as like an intense person?
I don't think that I am, but I come off that way. Like people always are like, "Oh, you seem so intense," and then they get to know me and they're like, "Oh, you're so funny." And no, that's not what you're like at
Yeah.
all. But like, yeah, yeah,
I feel like, well, I have two questions. When I see Pluto in the first house, especially on the ascendant, there's kind of two things I don't want to say assume, but I'm like, okay, this could be a thing for this person. One is it's like you're a magnet. So either people are like extremely attracted and like drawn in and, like just like want to be around you and want to be in your orbit, or it's the opposite and they're like totally repelled and they're like, I can't be around you.
yes,
Do you feel that way?
absolutely. And like, I get it. Like, I'm not for everyone. I have friends who will be like, I just can't deal with you on the internet, but I love you. Like, I can't follow you online, but like, I can hang out with you. And so, like, I kind of understand that. Like, and yeah, I don't know. I'm not for everyone. I think like most people who write or do comedy or do what I do, I don't know. I think we have to kind of be like selective with where we kind of like put our energy. So for me, it's very like, oh, I can't be for everyone. I'd be exhausted.
Yeah, yeah. I hear that. I feel like for me, I I feel like you're super chill. I can get the Plutonian vibe, but I think maybe because I'm also pretty Plutonian, my Sun, Mars, Pluto, and Scorpio. So maybe I'm just like, yeah, I can vibe with that. But
Yeah. And it's always like people are always like, oh, I thought you were going to be so like intense or mean or whatever. And then they get to know me and they're like, oh my God, you're just like the most optimistic little clown. Like, oh my God, you're just like a sunny little baby. Like, you're great.
that's true. Well, you have so much fire that, like, there's so much warmth in your chart that really the only water is your Scorpio rising.
Oh
Everything else
yeah.
is like fire, fire, fire. You have your chart ruler Mars and an air sign in Gemini, which definitely adds to the comedy factor. What's interesting is you were born right at the midpoint of a Mars retrograde. You were born at the exact Sun Mars opposition, which is like a important part in the retrograde cycle where, yeah, it's like halfway. So that's interesting to think about. Mars in the eighth house too. That's interesting to think about. There's a lot there, but
Yeah.
I have to get to like the main part of the show, which is this beautiful grand fire trine in your chart that's just like lighting up everything. You have your sun in Sagittarius, and then you have Venus in Sagittarius, and Mercury in Sagittarius, which I also have Mercury in Sag. And then you have this perfect trine from between the moon and Venus, moon and Aries in the sixth house, Sagittarius stuff in the second house, moon and Aries in the sixth house. Actually, I'm gonna share my screen. I forget. Sorry guys, this is the first time I'm recording in a really long time. So I'm
Oh,
like
I feel it. Yeah.
forgetting that we have people watching
We
on
have the
YouTube
technology, right? Like to, yeah.
yeah, so we can do this. So you can see Ashley's chart here. If you're watching on YouTube, which if you're listening and didn't know that's an option, that is an option.
Yeah.
And so we have this like beautiful grand trine between this Aries moon, which is like basically conjunct my Aries moon, and your Venus, and then your Jupiter and Leo in the 10th house,
Yeah.
like up there, culminating the brightest, star in the sky at that point. Kind of beautiful, very
Yeah.
beautiful.
That's my favorite part of my chart, I guess I'd say. That little
Yeah.
trine right there.
And Mars would have been very bright as well, like setting on the east, big red star. But yeah, I mean, this grand trine and fire really, I think, speaks to the comedy factor. Mars also being in Gemini in the eighth house in this kind of like compromised position, I think adds to, being able to just have a particular point of view on life that is very curious and like inquisitive and witty and also like, Martian and
Yeah.
and that. And so there's that. And then again, the fire being in these houses that have to do with your wealth, your work, your career, kind of like what you're building tangibly out in the world. And so to have like fire and these like this beautiful like fire trine, like this is like an election, like, if this is like some astrologer out there was like, use this day for something. And so yeah, sorry, by election I mean like choosing a time to start something or to begin something, because that's so lovely. So yeah, just to like have these like planets kind of working together to create something out in the tangible world that's like full of life, it's like full of fire and inspiration, and it's fun and hilarious. I just love it. Oops.
Yeah.
How did you get
I
into comedy? Oh, sorry. So you were gonna say.
Oh, I know. I was just gonna say, like, yeah, that's my favorite part. I don't know. I feel like there's so little like earth or air in my chart that like I just have to embrace all the fire.
I mean, you have enough to sustain. You got a little bit of water, a little bit of air, a little bit of earth
A little bit, yeah.
in order to like ground all that fire, which is it's working. It's working because yeah, we'll talk about it. Well, let's
Maybe.
start with how you got into this. How did you start um doing comedy?
Yeah, I mean, I always loved writing and performing. I loved doing comedy when I was in like middle school. We'd have these like fine arts weeks that were basically just talent shows. And I could play guitar and I would like do Flight of the Concord songs and just like repeat Mitch Hedberg jokes on stage. And I just like performing as a comic. But I don't know, it wasn't until I graduated from college that I realized like, oh, I could be a comedy writer and I could do comedy. Before that, I was very into like spoken word and doing poetry. I had this like idea that like, oh, like comedy is a white guy's thing. Like that's not a way for me to make money. It's not realistic. And so, I was like, I'll just be a writer. I majored in English. And then I was really focused on just like TV writing and comedy writing. And I don't know, when I moved to Chicago, there were just so many women in the comedy scene there, so many people who supported me and were like, why are you doing spoken word and storytelling? You're so funny. Like, just tell the funny parts of your jokes and just go do that. And I was like, oh my gosh, you're right. Like, I just want to be funny. What am I doing?
That's
Uh,
awesome.
yeah, so I started just like hitting open mics and like hanging out with like just any comedians I could and just going to as many shows as I could until I was like, oh, I love doing this and I'm comfortable with it. And God, that was like 2016. So yeah, it's been like, I'm like coming up on my, I don't know, like 5 year, whatever, 6 year, something like that. 6 years. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, let's see. You said 2016 was
Yeah.
kind of like when it started.
Yeah, that's when I started working at the Onion, and I was like, oh, I'm like really a writer. I'm doing this for real.
Damn. Let's see what was going on. I mean, oops, cast chart. Okay, yeah, that's right. Yeah, this whole like Saturn through Sagittarius transit seems to have been pretty important for you, which makes
Yeah.
sense because Saturn moving through Sagittarius hit your sun and hit your all your Sag planets and
All of
trined your
them. Yeah.
moon and trined your Jupiter. Yeah. So there was a lot. And yeah, and opposed your Mars. Damn.
Yeah.
So
It
that
was
really like
a
set
big
shit
career
off.
change for me. Yeah, I'd been working in like advertising before that.
Oh my God,
Uh,
I worked in advertising before this.
yeah, I was a little media planner and buyer for like whatever. It doesn't even fucking matter. Who gives a single shit? Yeah, but I worked in that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Wait, what agency?
I started at Starcom. They used to have
Okay.
this little boutique agency inside called Spark. Uh,
Okay.
and then I moved from there to Ogilvy.
Okay. I was at RGA.
Okay, yeah. That's a
I
big, yeah.
almost I almost took a job at Ogilvy right before I quit completely. I was like, they were like cooking up an offer, and I was like, you know what? I can't do this anymore.
Good thing because Ogilvy was the worst. Like I hated it there so much. That's when I was like, I need to get out of this industry. Like I had this boss who would like time how long I was away from my desk. Like
No.
if I went to the bathroom, she would like write down like 12:15. Ashley went to get coffee, returned to her desk at 12:24. And she like showed this to me and she was like, you spend a lot of time away from your desk. And I was like, so what? I'm
This
an
is like
adult.
so triggering because
Right? I'd be like, my work is getting done. And that's when I was just like, I'm fed up. I can't do this. I'm going to look at other jobs. And I got hired at the Onion and never looked back.
wow. Oh my God. Hell yeah. I feel like, hey, if you're in advertising and you're listening to this, and you're thinking about, quitting and doing your own thing, um, if it starts to hurt to go into work or it starts to like, you
Yeah.
know, get to the point where you're just like, you can't do your job because you dread it so much, it's already too late. Like, get out.
Get out. Yeah.
That's where I was at. And I was trying to hold out for a 401k match. And I left like 4 months, 5 months before I could get the match. And I was just like, I couldn't do it anymore.
Yeah. I did. I held out. I ended up, so I worked at the Onion. It ended up getting sold. They like had to lay off a bunch of people. So I got a job at Google and went back into basically advertising and sales, but was basically just like just hold out for the 401k match, the
Yeah.
stock, like they gave like a payment towards my student loans. I was just like just hold out for
Oh
that, hit
yeah.
3 years. And I did it. I did it, but I just hated it. Like
It's dreadful.
yeah, I think if I hadn't lucked out and had the pandemic for like most of that time I was working from home, I don't know if I would
Mm,
have made it. Yeah.
damn. Yeah. I quit. I was in Adobe after RGA. I went to Adobe for like a year and a half, and it was totally different type of job because I wasn't producing. I was like a producer so I was producing shoots and shit. But it was still, you know, like working in that corporate environment. I was working for Adobe Stock, curating the stock collection, which was cool and easy. That was like the best part of it, you know, easy for like a specialized, you know, I got my degree in photography. So it's like, I'm very good at sorting through pictures and being like, yes, no,
Yeah.
for hours and hours and just listening to podcasts and, you know,
Yeah.
but I still needed to get out. And I, that ended February 28th, 2020. So it was like my going full time by myself was like perfectly aligned with the pandemic. And
Yeah.
it's worked out so far. I'm still here, folks.
Same. Yeah, exactly. We're surviving.
We're
We're doing it.
surviving. It's wild how that shift like loosened up so many people so they're able to just like finally do what they wanted to do.
Yeah, and I don't know, it felt very like aligned with my Saturn return. It just felt like now is when shit's getting serious. I had to figure out a bunch of things. I like moved to LA from Chicago, and it was just like, okay, let's get it together. And yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Okay. So when did you move here?
I moved to LA. It was like June 2019. Yeah.
Okay, so that was Jupiter. Jupiter moving through Sagittarius, hitting all your Sag planets. And then recently we've had the eclipses in Sagittarius. We finally wrapped up the last set of Sagittarius and Gemini eclipses, but that has seemed to also like catapult you into, you know, another level of your life and your career. What have you been what's been going on? Like
Yeah,
list all like
it's
give
been
me
this weird
everything.
time of like trying to of like I don't know, it's been this weird time of like I've had to actually recount my accomplishments. I feel like the past few years have has just been a lot of like do it, get things done, get like just do it, and trying to just write, perform, saying yes
Yeah.
to opportunities. And now it's like a moment where people are like, wait a second, what have you done? Like you
And you're
need
like,
to and yeah, and I'm like, oh right, yeah. So all this stuff, and it's like this time where I'm like kind of happy and looking at my career, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I really have accomplished so much. Just like it'll be 3 years since I moved to LA this year, and it's just like, oh wow, like I have really done a lot, especially since I started just kind of taking bets on myself and working in comedy and like freelance writing and stuff, and it's like to see where I started. And actually, like, I a few days ago I reached out, and I do feel like this is very Sagittarius, this type of nostalgia. Like I absolutely am obsessed with like looking at my on this day on Facebook or
oh
any
my
like anything
gosh.
that's like look at this memory. I'm like, yes, what was I doing? And like I saw like some Facebook messages between a friend and I talking about like how we were excited for Warp Tour when we
Oh
were in
my
high
God.
school. And like 15 years
Yes.
ago in high school, I covered Warp Tour for my local paper.
Oh my God.
It's like
Wow.
I was like, I want to be a writer, and I like went to journalism camp and somehow convinced them to let me like write articles about Warp Tour for like our entertainment section in exchange for like free tickets. So I got like all these free
Wow.
press passes and like brought my best friends who were not writers, did not do any work. And so recently I was like reaching out to my local paper because I was like, I want those papers from like, I want the articles I wrote when I was like 16 years old. It's been like
Yeah.
15 years now. That's crazy to think about that I've actually been writing this long and to like see how I started there. And they're horribly written. I not well edited, honestly. Like
I
it's
mean,
like a straight.
teenager.
I was 16, but it's like,
Yeah.
did anyone edit this? Like, you guys really just published this, I guess. And like to look at how I started there and where I am now, it's like, oh, this is really cool. So, I feel like it's been that kind of retrograde of just like revisiting a lot of like past work and kind of like uh I've been writing about Insecure for like 6 years now.
Oh
Like
my
since it started,
God.
I've been covering it for the
Wow.
AV Club, and now it's ending. And I had to like look back and really be like, oh my God, yeah, I've been like writing about this show every year for years. And it's like this to grow, like it's something I grew with, and to like see it ending and like I'm transitioning to a new part of my career. It's just so interesting. So I feel like that's what a lot of the energy is right now.
Awesome. Wow. Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, this Venus retrograde, moving through your third house, moving over your Saturn right now, just like it feels very third house I think of as like your skill and kind of the thing that you just get really good at and you do really well, and also just like the skills that we have to learn are technical skills, and so it makes sense that you're kind of like reflecting on just like the busyness too of the last 3 years where your Saturn return has been just that nonstop cadent house, third house, sort of like you're just busy all the time. You just have a lot of shit to
Yeah.
do. And for you, it's like Saturn and Capricorn work stuff. In your North nodes there, you have 29-degree Capricorn North node still. Excuse me. So yeah, you have this like with the North node so close to Saturn, it's sort of like the North node is almost like this. I kind of think of it as like an electrical prod, like it kind of like overexcites whatever planet it's touching. And
Yeah.
so it's like your Saturn is like kind of like a hyperactive Saturn because it's also in Capricorn, like it's in domicile.
Yeah.
So it's just like able to like do like maximum output. and and yeah, I don't know. It's like you have this, it's interesting, when I feel like people don't really think of comics so much as like business people, because
Yeah.
not all of them are, but like you kind of have to be like, there's all these like other layers to it. And
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
It is a big thing of like, you can be the funniest person in the world, but if you don't know how to like promote yourself and get out there and,
exactly.
make the connections and do the shows, it's like it doesn't matter. And yeah, it's been a big year for that, just like building that up. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And now that Saturn's in your fourth house, it's like you just moved, you got out of a terrible living
Yes,
situation.
horrible living situation. I had a
I
horrible
empathize
roommate.
so much.
It was just very much time to get out of that situation. And it worked out really well. Like, I don't know what was happening in the stars, but I like found a new place that I love really quickly. Like, just got away from this horrible person I lived with. Who, like, I don't, yeah.
Do you want to
But,
share like, and it's okay if you don't want to recount any, but like just one of your favorite stories about how
uh,
terrible she was?
God, it's like where to start. Like,
I think I know my favorite like small quip, but I'm
what?
curious about
Okay,
yours.
God, it's like where to start. What's your favorite clip? Because I'll start there. Like,
So excuse me, I'm like taking a sip. The one where TMI, this is a little graphic, but where her period blood was like all over the toilet bowl.
okay, yeah, yeah,
That's
okay, yeah,
my
okay,
favorite.
okay, yeah, yeah, okay. I'll start here. Okay, like, okay, we both have menstruate. Personally, I like use pads and tampons. That's all I do. I'm old school like that. I have a heavy flow. All I can handle is pads and tampons. This person used a diva cup, which can be messy, I guess. Like you
I
have
mean,
to
yeah,
dump
I
that.
use cups, so
Yeah, there's a lot of like I guess spillage that can happen. It kind of whatever
yeah,
gets
for
where it
sure.
gets, and so I was kind of whatever about it. I never really noticed any problem, but it was this thing where like neither of us like to clean the bathroom. Like I hate cleaning bathrooms. I hate
I
it as a
am a
household
hundred
chore.
percent there with you.
Yeah.
I'm all about normalizing outsourcing care
Yes.
tasks
Exactly.
because
No, because
there's I'm there.
it just like I don't know, maybe it's because like growing up that was always the chore my mom made me do and now I just like
Exactly.
resent it. But like I instead will just like pay the like $60 a month for whatever
Yep.
service to come and just clean the bathroom. And so like when I go away on tour and I'm doing shows, I wouldn't pay for it because like why am I paying for the bathroom to be clean? I'm not there. And this person would also be like, "Oh, fair, like I'll pay for a person." I'd be like, "Okay, whatever." I came back from tour and the bathroom was disgusting, so I planned for someone to come the day that I got back to clean it because I was like, "Oh, then I can come back to a clean bathroom. It'll be lovely." And like the lady comes, she like cleans, it's great. I'm like, "Lovely. Oh my God, the place is beautiful." I take like a little gorgeous shower with candles. I'm like, yes, it's all clean. I go in my room and they had told me like, oh, I have a friend coming over for dinner. And I was like, whatever, I'll be in my room. I don't leave my room anyway. Like you live your life. And I go in my room and I heard my roommate go in the bathroom and come out, you know, and I also just will add at this point, I was not on my period. And then I heard her friend come, and the friend comes over and is like, I heard them like go to the bathroom, and I heard him shriek like ah like and like he comes running out of the bathroom and she's like what's up, and he's like look I'm a guy so like I maybe see parts of the toilet you don't see, but there's like blood everywhere under your toilet seat. And like I hear him saying this all through the door, like I can hear him saying it, like he's like there's just blood everywhere underneath the
No.
toilet seat. And I know that I just had a lady come clean it. Like I looked at her work, it was clean. I took a shower, it was all
Mm-hmm.
clean. And then this happened. So I know the history of events. And I am just in there like, oh my gosh, well, you know, like, is she gonna clean it? And I'm sitting in my room waiting to hear her go in the bathroom and clean it. I'm like waiting to hear a scrub brush, and there's nothing.
Nothing.
Nothing. She's just like, "Oh, huh." And then I hear, "Yeah, you know, that must be Ashley." And she blamed it on me. She was like, "Oh, that must be And then she just like went in the bathroom and started cooking, and they just like
Wait,
moved on. And
what did
I
the
was just
kitchen?
sitting
Oh my God.
and I'm just like sitting in my room like, "What? Why did she just say that it was me?" Like I was like I was just like, "I did not. That was not me."
I
And I got so mad about it, but I also had to use the bathroom. So I was like, well, fuck, now I'm going to have to clean it anyway because I need to pee. And I'm not going to, now that I know it's all. And I went in there and like, I just ended up cleaning the bathroom and I was so mad about it.
no.
Yeah.
That's absolutely some Mars retrograde in the eighth house shit.
Yeah. It just like, the big thing that like finally made me move out is that I was on tour and like, like they had a bunch of health issues. We're in the hospital. I was like, hey, whatever you need, let me know. I'm leaving. But like, if you need me to drop something off at the hospital, if you need me to bring you things, anything at all, please let me know. And the day I was leaving, I was like, hey, you know, your friends, they left your house keys in the apartment. And I was like, I'm leaving and your keys are in the apartment. So, you know, what's up with that? Do you need me to bring you your keys? She's like, no, my friends have a spare. Everything is all good. I get a text from one of her friends like 1 a.m. that's like, hey, we locked Lucy's keys in the apartment. Can you send a picture of your key so I can see if mine matches? They're like, we can't find a spare. And I'm just like, I said her, oh, whatever. I was like, oh, come on. Like, this is so annoying. Okay. I was like, look, I'll just like get a key made for you. I'm in Minneapolis at the time. I was like, I'm doing shows, but there's like this hardware store. I'll get a key made. I'll send it, you know,
Oh my
whatever you
God.
need. And I'm waiting. I'm like, okay, tell me where to send this key. I like get it made. And they're like, oh, you know what? Never mind. We got in the apartment. It's
No.
all good. And I'm like, okay, well, whatever. And I was like, at this point I just like didn't really trust the situation. Like I had packages I knew were coming and they were like, oh, we'll get your packages, don't worry, Ashley. I was like, I'm not trusting
Nah.
this. And because I knew my roommate had health issues, she would like that she was in the hospital, I was like, she's not around, like she has no idea when she'll be back home. Like before I left I had emptied out the fridge because I didn't want things to go bad. Like that's I was like, I told her, I was like, you know, we're both going to be gone for a while. So I like talked to my friend and I'm like, hey, I'm going to send you this key, like I don't want to bother my roommate because they're dealing with a bunch of stuff. Could you just like take this key, check out my apartment while I'm gone every few days and get my packages? And my friend goes over to the apartment and is like, Ashley, this key doesn't work. And I'm just like, what are you talking about? And he's like, Ashley, the key doesn't work for your apartment. I can't go inside and do anything. And I'm just like, what are you talking about, you idiot? Like, I'm just like, what do you mean the key doesn't work? And he's like, it's just not opening the door. And so he's like, you have some packages here, but they've been sitting here for a while, I can tell. And two of them are like busted open and they had
No.
taken stuff from inside. He takes what he can, he takes the rest of it. And he's like, I don't know, I couldn't get into your apartment. The key doesn't work, whatever. I'll just keep your packages in my car. That night, his car got broken into. They stole the packages.
No.
And I
No.
was like, whatever, I can't even blame you. And the next day, I get a text from my roommate's friend, who's this girl I worked with like 3 years ago. And she's like, hey, I heard that the locks on your apartment got changed. And I don't know why it's my job to tell you this, but apparently you need to talk to your property manager and get new keys. And I'm just like, what are you talking about? I'm like, what? No one has
What?
told me anything about this. And I'm like texting the property manager, calling him, and he's just like, yeah, your roommate said that her friend would tell you. And I'm just like, I'm on the lease. Like, you should have told me
What?
directly. And the property manager's like, oh, well, your roommate said it's cool that we just changed the locks and that you'd find out. And like, I'm telling you now. And I was like, wait, so you changed the locks on my apartment 2 days ago and didn't tell me? My roommate didn't tell me. Okay, and like now I
How
don't
is this
have.
okay?
Yeah, I'm like, how is this okay? I'm like, I'm in Minneapolis. I don't even have keys now. Like, where are my keys gonna be? And like the property manager's like, oh, I'll leave them out for you somewhere. Don't worry about it. And at this point, I'm like waiting for my roommate to at some point text me and confirm any of this, because I have not heard anything from my roommate, who is the person who did all of this.
Oh my
And
God.
like I waited 5 full days and I hear nothing. And finally I text her. I'm like, hey, so I heard the locks got changed. And she's just like, oh yeah, I don't know why you're upset. Like they told me that, they told you. And I was just like, no, like I didn't hear anything. And look, like Becca told me, like, why would this girl be the one to tell me? And it was like a whole thing. And she just was like, I just don't understand why you're mad. And she just like refused to like, she just kept being like, Ashley, I don't get it. Like the key was there. And I'm just like, I didn't know because nobody told me the locks were changed. And then because she is like a white woman, she was just like, I just feel like you're insulting and harassing me. And I was like, I'm just pointing out that most adults could communicate to their roommate, hey, my keys got locked in the apartment. The only way they could change it was to like to change the locks. And she's like, I thought you would come back and we would laugh about this and how the property manager had to change the locks because he didn't have a master key. And I was just like, I didn't even know that was why until right. I was this whole time I've been like, why did they even have to change the lock? I don't even understand. And she's like, I thought we would just laugh about this. And I was just like, what? No.
I feel like this person is a TV show character. Like,
Yeah. She literally is. Yeah, she's like, well, I don't know, one of those just like liberal white women where you're like, how are you a real person? Like,
you
she's one of
remember?
those white women who would be like, I don't open my mail because it stresses me out. And it's like, what? Like, you have to deal
I
with
mean,
reality.
kind of same, but still. I
I
still
mean,
open it.
too. Yeah,
It still stresses
I
me
didn't
out
know
though.
you could opt out. Like, I
I
didn't
didn't
know
know you
you
could
could
opt
just
out
be like,
for.
yeah, like I'm gonna opt out on responsibility. There was one time, it was like during the presidential debates with Biden and Trump, and I was like, I'm not watching this. Like, there's no reason for me to watch this. Like, I need, I
Yeah.
neither,
For
yeah,
what?
for what? But she was like, oh, I gotta fucking get in. She like was like freaking out. She was like drinking wine and like pacing back
Stressing
and
yourself
forth.
out. Yeah.
Yeah, and she was like pacing back and forth, and I like go out there and she's like pacing and like has the door open, the windows open. She's like, I need air. And I look at the screen and it's like two dead corpses like on stage, like the most boring thing in the world happening. And she's just like, oh, I needed air. I had to open the doors. And I'm like, whatever, girl. I'm just gonna go smoke pot in my room. Bye. And the next day I wake up and I come out in the living room and like everything is where she left it. Like the TV is still going, the doors are open, the windows are open, there's like a wine glass. It's like she just disappeared and I'm like, what the fuck happened? I'm like, wait, like our apartment door has been open all night. And like she wakes up and she's just like, hey, good morning. And I'm like, I'm like, hey, did you like leave all of this on and open all night? And she's just like, oh my God, I must have just been so stressed out. I forgot. And I'm
Drunk,
just
aka
like,
drunk.
yeah. And when I was like, yo, like you can't do that. Like our apartment building doesn't have like a gate or anything. Like anybody can just walk through this
Come right
building,
in.
come right in. And like she was just like, Ashley, this is so aggressive. Like I can't. And she's like, Ashley, I believe Black Lives Matter. Okay. And she
No,
was like,
she didn't.
literally she was just trying to be like, calm down, like why are you being so aggressive with me and being angry about this? I
Bro,
apologize. And I was
absolutely
like,
not.
yo, like you, I need to know that like you, because this was not the first time she left the door unlocked or open. And I was just like, this happens a lot and I need you to stop doing it. And she was just like, I believe Black Lives Matter. And I was like, what about my black items mattering in this apartment? I don't want my black ass TV to get
My
stolen.
black
So like,
life. Yeah, to
I don't
walk,
want my
come
black
home
life
to
to get,
some
okay, we live in the
robber.
city of the night ripper or whatever, the night stalker. Like, I'm not
That
trying to get
part.
murdered, please.
Or come
And
home to one. Damn.
yeah,
That's stressful.
so it was a lot. And so now I finally moved. I'm free and I'm so
I'm
happy.
so happy for you. Awesome. Um, yes, okay. What other question? Well, okay, let me actually ask you, do you have any questions for me? Do you want
Okay.
like a general outlook
I
for
want to
something? Do
know. I
you
want to know all about
questions?
love and romance, of course. Like, isn't that what
Yes,
everybody wants to know? Please
of
tell me about
course.
my dating life, romance. That's what I want to know
You
about.
get
That's what
out the
I need
big book.
guidance on.
Okay.
It's a
Don't we all, girl?
I
I hear
stopped
you.
dating for a long time during quarantine, and a little before that I just kind of got fed up and was like, I'm over it. And I only
Hmm.
recently have re-entered the pool. And I
I
don't
hear
know.
you.
I just, you know,
You're ready. You're ready for a little something, something.
yeah, it's but like what is that something, what how what you know, the depth of what I'm looking for. Life just still feels so busy, and the idea of like being so involved with someone feels so heavy, but at the same
Yeah,
time it's like wanting someone where you're like, you're a person I travel with and do things with, you know.
totally. And I think you can absolutely have that. So I'm gonna share my screen
Yeah,
again.
let's get into it because I don't know. If anyone listening follows me on Twitter, I'm sure you know that I have a huge crush on someone right now.
Oh
uh
yes. And I haven't even been on Twitter and I know that just from like kind of like popping in and like sometimes seeing that like I just see it every now and then. Do you know this crush is like
Oh, yeah, I
sun
think the
sign?
last time we all hung out with Stevie, I was like, "Oh my God, I have this crush."
Probably.
Yeah,
Wait, do we know this? Could you share the sun sign?
Capricorn. I have their whole chart.
Capricorn.
I have their whole chart.
Oh my God. Okay, I'm getting really anxious about this candle I have going. Just because yesterday the fire alarm went off
I feel that. I feel
because of the
that.
candle, and I'm just gonna blow it
I
out
have
one
set
sec.
off many fire alarms with candles.
It's really it's really annoying. It's
Like
like
I
it's just
would
a
get those,
candle.
yeah. I'd get those, I don't know, the jar ones, and then I'll like, do some burrow holes or whatever and put oils, do some annoying, but then it's still that flame will like get so big. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh shit.
Once it starts
Like,
getting like black at the top, it's like, oh, you're making
yeah, I'm
smoke.
like, okay,
Uh,
let me just go ahead and put this out.
yeah. Okay, so um yeah, okay, this is where we begin. I almost said where do we begin, but I know where we begin. We begin over here in the seventh house. So you do you still kind of identify as like solo poly? Like, what are you looking for? Do you, or if you don't have, yeah, what
Yeah,
are you
I
looking
still
for?
identify as solo poly, which mostly means I create the terms of my relationships on an individual basis. So I don't
Cool.
really have a primary, but as I meet people, I kind of adapt and figure out my relationship status. So if I meet someone who's polyamorous, we'll figure that out. But I also will have periods where I'll be monogamous with someone, or we'll be like, hey, let's be monogamous for like 6 months and then open things up. It's kind of just very adaptable.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. Excuse me. So when we're looking at relationships in astrology in the chart, we're primarily looking to the seventh house and what's going on there. Of course, we want to look to you, the first house, and you in relation to um the seventh house as well, the other person, the partners, etc. So you being this Mars retrograde in Gemini in the eighth house person, like this is kind of like your avatar as your chart ruler. Then we look to the ruler of your seventh as the other person or the other people that you encounter. So that's this Venus in Sag in the second house. And there is this like opposition there, which it like in this case is good because it's like you can see each other. Like there's definitely a lot of relationships to be had. And it also to me speaks to the fact that you're like, one, you do relationships in like a you could say non-conventional way. And two, it's like you need variety. Like you can't just one, it's not like, I don't know, I don't want to say one is not enough, but because it's not really about being enough, but like it's that it's just inherent in who you are to want variety and to do things differently than, you know, I would say dominant culture.
Yeah.
partly part of why I'm saying that is because your chart ruler Mars is retrograde. So it is very like, you know, it's going the other way. It's doing things differently. And it's in Gemini. And it does have that like necessity for what's the word I'm looking for? Options,
Yeah.
choices. Yeah.
It's I don't know, it just always feels all over the place. Like I'm just like, could just a lot of options.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like the solo poly makes a lot of sense to me, given the fact that your chart ruler is kind of over here, kind of solo, you know, like and just having this like direct opposition with these other planets. And it's like Mars, the planet that represents you, is above the horizon, visible, whereas like the planet that represents other people is below the horizon, not only just below the horizon, but very much like combust and hidden by the sun's rays. So kind of like low key. Have most of the people you dated been sort of like, you know, not famous, you could say, or not people who are like in the public eye, or, you know, just
Yeah.
invisible people? They're pretty, not
Yeah,
to say
I
invisible, but
yeah, there are usually people who aren't like they don't want to be in entertainment in any sort of way or be in the spotlight. They're people who are like, yeah, I have my job and I'm happy.
right. It makes sense, especially with them being here in the second house too. But it's like the fact that there's this opposition. To me, opposition speaks to distance. And I think like long distance relationships can work really well for people who have a lot of oppositions or have this type of dynamic. Just enough space. It's like you need to be able to like do the thing and then separate and be able to like see it clearly from this like other perspectives, this like pulled back point of view that's not so like in the weeds. And you can have that sort of like coming together and that connection that is really important, and probably really fiery and like fun and
Yeah.
exciting. But then it's
I
like you
have
got to
done a
pull
lot of
away.
long distance relationships actually.
Yeah, what's the most long distance?
Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, the person I dated in high school, we stayed together the whole time I was in college. We were actually engaged when I was like 19. He proposed, and like, I was in Massachusetts, he was in Illinois, and then there was
Oh
a
my
part where like
gosh.
he was in Vermont and I lived in Germany for a year.
Oh my
So it was
gosh.
like incredibly long distance. Like we would see each other like every 4 months.
Wow.
Uh,
Wow. Wait, how old were you?
it was like 19 to 22.
Wow. Okay. So that's like you were like in
Well,
love.
we started dating when I was 17.
Oh
Yeah,
my
like
God.
17 to
Wow.
22. Oh yeah, it was like very in love, like writing handwritten letters and like taking photographs or like yeah.
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 Wow. So, and that ended in what year?
2013.
2013, the ominous 2013.
Yes, 2013. That was the year I graduated, moved to Chicago, broke up with my fiance.
What
Uh
do you remember when it was? Like what month?
oh gosh, I think it was like April 2013.
Okay.
Because it was like right after my spring break, and I hadn't graduated yet, and I graduated like in June. So yeah, I think it was like
Mm,
April 2013.
wow. Yeah,
Um,
I see the transits.
I probably like have a Facebook post about it I could like find where I'd be like, "Oh my God, like I'm single now." Something.
Wow. So
Um,
was part of the breakup the fact that you were like, I'm polyamorous?
no, I mean, I we had actually kind of figured that out together. I mean, we were
Mm-hmm.
long distance for so long.
Mm,
And in the last like year of our relationship, we'd read a lot of books. I mean, I always like from the beginning, I always knew that I wanted to be poly, that I I mean, like my one of my heroes was Simone de Beauvoir, who was this like French philosopher who believed in polyamory and stuff. And so I always dreamt of like having lovers all over the world and all this type of stuff. And when I lived in Germany, that's when it was kind of like I'm like on another continent. Like, what are we doing? So we like figured that out together. And he lived with me for a bit in Germany too for a few months, and we like talked it out.
wow.
So, that we had kind of figured out, but I think it was more just uh I was becoming more of who I wanted to be, and I don't think he really liked that person.
Mm,
Uh I I don't know. I think he just saw me fitting into his life in a very different way, and who I was becoming, I couldn't be that person.
yeah.
Like in our relationship, I was very much the one who like took care of him, like made sure he
Mm,
like got things done, like I made sure he paid bills and stuff. It was a weird dynamic where even his parents would be like, "We're so thankful for you that like like they'd act like I raised him," and it was
yeah.
like, and like I mean,
That's
even
wow. I feel like
even
that's
my
like the having the really strong Saturn,
yeah.
honestly.
Like my mom will be like, she'll remind me, like, you got him into college. Like I filled out his application, did his
Wow.
essay. I used to do his homework.
Oh my
Uh,
gosh.
Because,
Wow.
I would just be like, oh, we're together. I'm your partner. Like, I'll help you with all this stuff. And so, like, I think, like, he didn't really want to be that person. And I think a part of it was him wanting to be who he thought I wanted, so he would kind of push himself to like go to college, and I don't think he really even wanted
Mm-hmm.
to do that. Like, when we ended up breaking up, he ended up dropping out and like going to work in a factory, and I think that was always what made him happy. He was just like,
Mm,
I'd be
just want to
happy just
work.
like work, yeah, just working on a farm and being with you. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh no, I want to travel and see everything and learn
Yeah.
everything, and like it just became too big of a difference. And yeah, I don't know, I think at the end of the day he like would start to kind of resent me for it. He would come and spend time with my friends and would be like, oh, you're like the center of attention, like everyone wants to
Oh
talk
my
to
God.
you, and like
Sounds
just
just
kind
like
of
my ex. He
yeah,
told
like
me
just
he was like, you're Oprahing around all the time. I'm like, what are you talking
yeah, I'd
about?
be like, what are you talking, like we'd go to parties with my
Have
friends.
friends. Yeah.
Yeah, and he'd be like, "What was I supposed to talk about? Like, I didn't know anything about that." And I'd be like, "You can go talk to whoever. Like, it's go find someone to have a conversation with." Like, and it would be like at that point, my senior year of college, he went to a school that was only like an hour away, so we would kind of like go to each other's campuses every other weekend. And I don't know, like at that point, I kind of had realized how I'd found myself as like a social person, and as like I'd kind of found a voice in my writing, and that's when I was like really doing a lot of like Tumblr blog stuff, which is kind of
Yeah.
they're
Hell
still
yeah.
similar to what I do now. But like there were just people who were like connecting with that voice and who it was, and he just like I don't think liked it at all.
I
And
hear that.
yeah, what but yeah, at the end of the day, I think what finally convinced me to end things though is that we went on a camping trip, a hiking trip, and he was like on a ton of drugs, which I didn't really know at the time. And he like pushed me while we were walking down this mountain, and I like hurt my ankle, and he was like yelling at me about how I never let him help me, and about how like he felt all emasculated and stuff. And I was just like sitting there in the mud, and I was like, can you just like get away from me? And that's when I was like, yeah, I gotta stop seeing this guy. And yeah.
Damn.
And I moved to Chicago and sold the engagement ring he gave me and used the money to buy weed.
Good, good. I mean, I feel like that story felt so familiar. It felt way too familiar. It's like, but I think what I'm looking at your chart, what keeps coming up to me for me as you're talking is the eighth house, the chart ruler in the eighth house, which is something that's like kind of low key, but like it's because it's the eighth house, which is kind of this hidden space. Um, aka also known as the entrance to hell,
Yeah.
the gate of Hades, um, or the idol place. But I find that people who have their chart ruler in the eighth house, or significant planets there, find themselves in this position of like taking care of other people, or supporting other people, or being one that's being supported by other people. But I tend to see it the other way around. And it sounds like you have like run into these scenarios, and like it's kind of been part of your like becoming, is like recognizing when it's like, oh no, I have to, like, this is a cycle that I'm
Yeah.
falling into the cycle. Goodbye.
Yeah. Because I think for me, it's all about like partnership. And I think that's the Gemini, right? It's like,
Yeah.
if I'm gonna have a relationship with someone, to me it's like a partnership and equal balance, like the give and the take. And then but then there's this retrograde where I'll start to kind of realize like, oh, I'm giving way more, like, oh, this person is taking, or this balance is unequal and they rely on me too much.
Yeah.
And that's when I hate it, like when someone's clingy,
It's
when
the
they rely on me too
worst.
much, that's when I'm like, you're disgusting, can't do this, like, no.
Yeah. I have my moon's in the second house and my Venus is in the eighth house. So that second house, eighth house opposition is so potent. And if you're listening and you want to hear more about that, I have a whole episode about it. Second house, eighth house in season 2, with Bear River and Sam Reynolds. So we go into it because we all three of us also have second house, eighth house stuff. It's a heavy axis. So, it has so much to do with like, I like to say it's like second house is like my shit, eighth house is like your shit, everybody else's shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like that interplay between, and it's like this power dynamic too around like, you know, the ways that you're supporting yourself and the ways that you're supporting others, and making sure it's like, and that's kind of why it's like the gate of Hades, because it's
Yeah.
like, what are you kind of all the shit you're carrying into hell?
Yeah.
And then like, what are you leaving with that's like just for you?
Exactly. I don't know, I think my relationships, they're always, I don't know, some of them are just very intense. There's always like something maybe transformative to them. I don't know, that maybe that's also the Scorpio rising energy I have, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, I always feel like at least I am changed or learned something, even if it's like a horrific relationship. Uh, and I don't know, I think the people I date are changed in some way after dating me.
Yeah, yeah.
They
I'm
realize something
sure.
about themselves. Yeah.
Definitely. Well, okay. So to get into like what's coming up for you, territory, there's a lot
Please,
coming.
please.
There's a
Oh my
lot
God, I have
coming.
such a crush right now. But it's so
Tell me
it's so
about the
whatever.
crush. Tell me about the crush.
I don't know. It's like whatever. We've been hanging out for a while. They're Capricorn. It's chill. It's a very Capricorn, take it slow type deal. We're just getting to know each other. But
Okay.
we're coming up on that amount of time where it's like we've extended beyond the May December, and it's like, okay, so now we got to actually have the talk of like, what are we looking for? What are we doing? What is this?
Okay.
And I
Okay.
don't know what to expect. I literally don't know how that's gonna go. So
Did something come up like mid-November, like around Thanksgiving at all?
Yeah, that was my birthday. Yeah.
Okay. Did
And
you, it was, yeah, did something relationship wise come up around then?
yeah, that was when we like hung out for my birthday and like spent a night together and stuff. And I was like, that's when I was like, hey, I really like you, and this isn't just like a casual thing for me.
Right.
So yeah,
Wait, okay. So how did that
I don't
you
know
don't
that
have
I
to you don't have to
communicated
say
it
it, but
very. I don't know that I communicated it very well because I was just kind of like, I like you, and they were like, I like you, and I was like, okay. I was like, I don't think you get what I mean when I say that.
right. Right.
And
Well,
I was just like,
there's
and I was like, okay.
okay. Okay. And what's the you said they're a Capricorn. Okay. Um yeah, I wonder what's going on with them in this retrograde, but regardless, there's stuff going
Libra
on.
rising, Gemini moon.
Okay. There you go. Libra rising, Gemini moon. Okay. So we know then that they're ruled by Venus. So they're in some shit when it comes to this retrograde. Probably home family stuff, because it's in their fourth house. Um, but yeah, so what I'm looking at mostly is the fact that your seventh house is Taurus. Um, and your descendant is at 15 degrees. So Uranus is coming for your descendant. Uranus is going to get to 15 degrees. Let me actually look at that. Because right now it's at 10, it's stationing. It gets to 15 degrees in May. That happens to, just so happens to align with Taurus season. And with Taurus season comes
Yeah.
an eclipse or eclipses. Um, so we do have an eclipse pretty close to your descendant, like I think within a couple degrees. It's at like 10 degrees. Yeah, 10 degrees of Taurus. So we get that eclipse. Uranus is very close by. Venus is going to enter Taurus in at the end of May into June. And there's just a lot of activity. There's a lot of activity happening in your seventh house.
Yeah.
Um, and before that, let's see what's happening to your Venus. Your Venus just got eclipsed um during this whole set of eclipses in Sag and Gemini, and maybe that had to do with like when did you guys meet? When did you guys first start talking?
Like June of last year,
2020,
21.
21.
Yeah.
What was that? Well, that was an eclipse for sure, but I forget which degree. Um,
Maybe it was July. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, there were eclipses like in both of those signs. So yeah, that makes sense. And now that they're angular for you, I do think that something's popping off, whether it's this or something else, or this and other things. There's just so much happening in the relationship sector. And I would have to imagine that also extends to work, like partnerships
Yeah.
as well. Especially with your Venus being the second house, it makes me think like, okay, like you partnerships, there's some money to be made within your partnerships, and there's some like
Yeah, you know what? That's what I need to be
assets.
focused on anyway. Not crushes. I need to be focused on that bag, on making that money. Exactly.
No,
Yeah.
I'm really hopeful for actually 2023 for you. Not to say that I don't think things are going to happen this year, because I think they will. Um, but there's something really special that's going to happen when Jupiter gets to that trine, like to fill out that trine that you have, which doesn't happen until next year. Jupiter, you get like a tease this year. Jupiter is going to go into Aries. It gets up to like 8 degrees. Your moon, Venus, Jupiter trine is at like 12, 13 degrees. So that happens in yeah, March of 2023, which is also when Saturn moves into Pisces. There's like a lot that shifts like in about a year. But we definitely get
See?
a big taste of it this
And
year.
who knows who I'll be dating a year from now.
I
So
mean, yeah. So another like really exciting thing that just started is that Jupiter moved into Pisces, which is your fifth house. Scorpio risings, I'll just say, are like the number one like chart placement I'm looking to this year for like love, sex, like coming out, being like just like, becoming, I guess. And also like, yeah, definitely romance and love and creativity. It just feels like there's a lot, especially in the first half of the year.
yeah.
I think there's gonna be a
I think
lot
it's
of
more
pregnancies.
I think creative on my end, creative pregnancies
Yeah,
of
definitely.
birthing art.
100%
Because
giving birth to babies. Yeah.
my crush probably isn't in love with me and doesn't want to get me pregnant. But if they did, I mean,
I mean, yeah, you make it work, right?
maybe, yeah, maybe. Who knows? Yeah,
You figure it out. You figure it out one way or
yeah,
another.
that's a conversation.
It's a conversation. Yeah. So I'm like, before Jupiter even gets into Aries and like starts to tease out that trine, it moves through your fifth house and it's already there. And with that, you get Jupiter squaring all of your Sagittarius and Gemini placements, which is kind of cool. Because the Jupiter squares just mean like it's just a lot. Like things just get extra, basically. So I
Yeah,
can imagine that you're just going to be like, it's coming closely square to your sun. Your sun represents or rules your career and your, prominence, like your reputation, all of that. So I can imagine just like you're going to be seen a lot, there's just going to be this like, oh, are you going to be seen a lot in something soon?
I don't know. I mean, I have shows and stuff, and then there's always like stuff I'm applying for and like doing, and you never know when anything is actually like going to come out, and you're just like,
Right.
we'll
Yeah.
see. Like maybe people will hear about it this year, next year.
Oh my
Uh,
God. This industry.
yeah, it's just yeah, but I mean, I
Okay.
don't know. I feel like I'm just excited on a lot of things I'm working on, and I feel like this will be the big year to get things out into the world. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
definitely. Yeah, so I love that you get a couple trines from Jupiter to your sun, but before that, you get the square, and then it's going to square your Venus, which I'm interested in because it's just like contact between the ruler of your fifth house, which is like sex, creativity, like love, fun, play, pleasure, in contact with the ruler of your seventh house, which is your partnership. It's like even though it's a square, it's contact and we like contact, Squares are
Yeah.
friction. That's hot. So so I like that
Sure,
for
yeah.
you. I
For
like that
sure.
it's gonna trine your ascendant. That would be really nice. So it just feels like Jupiter is it's bringing a lot into play for you next year. And it's like it's very creative. And then it gets into Aries and it feels like it's just work opportunities. It's like you're giving birth to a lot of things, and then it's like they're like, oh, okay, let's like take this and run with it.
Yeah. Okay. And this all sounds so good. I feel like what's the bad? Like what do I need to be on the lookout for? It's
Well, okay, let's see.
like
There, okay, so I don't want to say this is bad, but this is something to keep in mind. How old? So you're 31, right?
yeah.
Okay, so you're 31. You're 31 for most of the year. So 31 is an eighth house year, and and you have your Mars retrograde in the eighth house. We're gonna have another Mars retrograde through your eighth house during your eighth house year. It starts at least about a month before you turn 32. And yeah, let's start with that. Just eighth house years tend to be a little bit more I don't want to say quiet because that's not necessarily the case, but what I tend to see happen is that 31 is a year that typically gives you more room and time and space to like work on like just work on yourself, like work on those things that are
Sounds great.
like therapy things, you know, like I feel like the eighth house is like the therapy house. And it's like, you just, when we're like we're doing the most, we just don't really have like yeah, we can go to therapy every week, but like it takes so much more time to like process shit and like work through shit and like grieve, you know what I mean? Just like go through those processes. And
Yeah.
the eighth house year kind of offers that. And I think because your chart ruler's here in the eighth house, and that's kind of like being activated because you're 31, it's just going to be a lot about identity too. And like kind of like moving through these processes and just processing shit, you know what I mean? And like kind of peeling back more layers. And just it feels like a quieter sort of a quieter year in a lot of ways, but not to say that things won't happen, but I think your experience of it is going to be a little bit more internal. Does that
That
make
sounds great.
sense?
Yeah.
And then on top of that, we have these eclipses happening, you know, in your first house in Scorpio. So the north node of it is in the seventh house, like kind of bringing people into your sphere. So like I think there's just going to be, you're going to have options, you know, there's
Yeah.
just going to be people
Yeah.
around. But and it's going to be a lot of just building and forming and maintaining relationships. But at the same time, through that, the south node being in your first house, there's just this like letting go, I would say, like a purging of parts of your identity. So again, it feels like very, you know, the onion, like peeling back the layers sort of thing.
Yeah.
And from what I remember of the south node and south node eclipses moving through my first house, it was very much like just like kind of like realizing parts of myself and my identity that I just was like, I don't want that. I don't want this piece of that of myself anymore. You
Yeah.
know, it's just like peel that off. I don't need that. I don't need to like
Yeah. It's like
identify
very, yeah,
in
like
that
who
way
am I?
anymore.
Yeah. Like what's going on? Yeah.
Exactly. And the relationships, being in relationship with other people kind of helps facilitate that process too. Cause it's like, you know, everything's a mirror sort of thing, yada, yada. See yourself in other people. It makes you realize stuff about yourself,
Yeah.
all that jazz.
Yeah.
Um,
Hanging out with a Capricorn, I feel like has been cool for that because I'm just very like, oh, get shit together, like organize things, like, oh, yeah.
yeah. Yeah. I hear that. I know hopefully he never listens to this, but I've had a thing with this like Uber Gemini for it's been a goddamn year and a half at this point, but it's been very, very distant, very long distant, very
A
in and
year and a
out,
half, that's like an
amorphous.
amount of time. That's like a year and a half. That's like,
You're telling me.
I mean, I don't know. I guess I'm the same way. Like, I still call this person my crush, and then my friends are like, "You've been hanging out with them for like 7 months," and I'm like, "So?" I'm like, "They're a crush. Who knows?"
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
but this isn't a thing anymore, really. Who knows? But I don't think it is. What was I even going to say? Oh yeah, his Virgo moon has been like that part. It's just so the earth energy is just so grounding. It's so like
Yeah.
regulating, you know? It's like, ooh, yeah, like I can tune
Yeah.
into this rhythm. Like this feels
Yeah.
really
Like,
good.
there's, like, I don't know, just something comfortable here and familiar. And I don't know. I
I want
appreciate
more of
that
it.
at this stage of my life. Yeah, just someone reliable who's like, I got you,
Yeah.
and they actually got you. It's like, oh, okay.
Integrity, yeah,
Yeah.
reliability.
Oh, yeah.
So much to ask for.
Yeah, it's like, oh my gosh, yeah, that's like what I'm hoping to attract right now.
Yes, love that. Call more of it in. Yeah, you know, I want to look at your zodiacal releasing, I think. Do I want to look at that? No, I want to look at your solar return chart.
Yeah, please.
Um, because that always has a little bit of clues. Okay, cool. Wow, Kazimi. Okay. Yeah. So your solar return chart has a Gemini rising,
Okay.
with a Kazemi sun. I'm gonna share my screen. Sun, Mercury, um, exactly conjunct, basically, um, in the seventh
Yeah.
house. And Mercury is your time lord this year. Um, and so I don't know. This also just kind of adds another layer of the partnership element to me. The fact that this is all in your seventh house. You have this really pretty Virgo moon, trine Uranus, trine.
Hmm.
This is just like I love Virgo moon's like my favorite placement, and it's yeah. This will look about anyway. Um, this is actually like right on my chart ruler. This is like the same degree as my chart ruler, but
Yeah.
yeah, it feels very like you're definitely still doing stuff. There's definitely still a lot going on, but it feels like you're kind of in something. Like this feels very what's the word I'm looking for? Not devoted, but like focused, I guess. It feels very like basically when a planet is in the heart of the sun like this, in this exact conjunction with the sun in a Kazemi, it's like being like sitting on the lap of the king, or like being having sex with the king. Like it they describe it sort of as this sexual union. By they I mean like the ancient Greeks. so
Okay.
so the way I see this is like this happening at the moment of your solar return this year just feels like, and Mercury being your time lord and the ruler of this chart, to me feels very like in, what's the word, it's not concert, you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
like in rhythm together, like
Kind of, but like I don't know. I'm probably Mercury and Sag. I'm having a hard time with the word, but basically being kind of just in this private space, it's like, and it's like right after sunset, all over here in the seventh house. I don't know. To me, this just feels super involved with
yeah.
another. Yeah.
This is 2021.
This is on your birthday in 2021. So this is the chart for this birthday that just passed until till the next one
I
in
mean, I
2022.
guess it was fairly partnered.
The birthday, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm so
Like
sad I couldn't be there.
it was a good time. I feel like okay, yeah. My crush like stayed with me where I was staying at this hotel, and that night like we were watching TV and like oh we were like cuddled having a great time, and all of a sudden like a pipe burst and all this water just started like rushing into the hotel room. And we had just like to hate like we had to like clean everything up and like get all of our shit together and like move to another room. It was so crazy. And like
Oh my God.
immediately they were just like, okay, game plan, we're gonna do that. And I was like, okay, we got this.
Oh my God.
And it was just
Wow,
like so
Jupiter like
intense. Yeah.
hanging out around your IC, I guess. Or no. Yeah, Jupiter, because your thing's in the middle. That's so wild.
Yeah. It
I'm
was
just like staring at the chart, like, what was it? Was it Mars and Scorpio? That's kind of a on your Pluto. Who knows?
yeah.
But
But I was very like it was literally like I was like, oh finally we can like relax and have a good time. And then it was just like, oh never mind. Here's like the worst responsibility.
that's wild. Wow. Was it here in LA? In a
Yeah.
hotel? I was no, I'm not gonna go into that story because we're on a podcast.
Yeah. But it was just one of those moments I was very like, okay, like at least I'm seeing this person is chill and can handle events like this.
Yes, exactly. So have you guys like had discussions yet about but or do you think that's coming?
It's coming. Like we've had I was like we should talk about it. Like I was like we should have the defining the relationship conversation this weekend.
This upcoming weekend?
Yeah.
Oh
They
my
were like
gosh, I
they
was
were
gonna suggest this weekend.
they were like the next time we hang we should talk about it and I was like yeah, like Sunday, I guess we're gonna hang out
Oh
and
my God.
we'll talk about it. I don't know
So
what's there to say, but we'll see.
if you're listening, if you're listening, I don't know why I keep saying that. Like obviously you're listening, but if you're wondering why I was going to suggest this
Yeah,
weekend and
please.
why I'm not surprised it is this weekend, is because we get a Venus Cazimi. I'm not still sharing. Okay. We get a Venus Cazimi this weekend, meaning Venus comes and passes between the sun and the earth, and forms an exact alignment with the sun. And so I think we're going to get a lot of like clarity on matters
Yeah,
that have
of the
been
heart,
taking
yeah.
place around this intense ass retrograde. um
Mm.
it's kind of like kazimis are that, it's kind of a moment of clarity, a moment of insight. And you can kind of think of Venus, like, because it's passing in between the sun and the earth, kind of like taking a nugget of wisdom from that romp with the sun and being able to like pass it down to us on earth, because we can technically see it. um yeah,
Yeah.
so that, I think, is a
Yeah.
good weekend for
Yeah, I
that.
think it'll be a moment of clarity. I think we'll see what if my how my intuition handles it. We'll see. I don't know.
Cool. Okay, well, regardless, like, I'm excited for you for this. I keep catching myself almost saying next year, but we're here. It's 2022.
Yeah.
um I'm excited for you because, yeah, you get a lot of like Jupiter stuff. I mean, we're starting out slow with this Venus retrograde, I feel like, and then we get a fucking Mercury retrograde. If you're going to be listening to this way after all that, so if we sound
Yeah.
we sound worn out, it's because we're in retrograde land right now.
Yeah.
In post holiday, and in the thick of
It's been a lot.
Omicron.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just been so heavy lately.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, this Venus Pluto.
yeah.
Um, but hopefully by the time you guys are listening and watching this, Jupiter is well into Pisces, and hopefully things are looking up. Please, future Kirah, tell
Yes.
me things are going to be okay.
I hope future Ashley is just great. Like the joy is surrounded by joy, happiness, clarity, stability.
Hell
Yes. Love
yes,
it.
hell yes, yes. Give me some of that like inspiration, fire. As soon as I say fire, of course you light up,
Oh, I gotta be
literally.
careful. I'll light my hair on fire. I've done it before.
I'm like, why didn't I roll multiple joints? Blew it
I got
all
them.
in
I got
one
them ready
one
to go.
go. Well,
But
okay, so yeah, I guess my like overall reading for you love wise would be um like definitely for the first 3 months of this year, like you're gonna have that Jupiter blessing of like expansion in regards to your creativity, just like juiciness, like it's just very fertile, you know what I mean?
yeah.
um so take advantage of that, and with that, that also means like lots of joy, like having fun, doing things that just make you feel great, listening to great music, eating amazing food, like smelling the roses type of shit, um and just like prioritizing fun and pleasure, lots of sex, all that fun stuff. And yeah, I think March especially is going to be really cute for that, with Venus and Pisces. Oh, sorry, April. I keep forgetting it's slow. So yeah, April will be really cute for that.
Okay.
Um
I really want to
and
take my I've been telling myself in my head if I still am seeing my crush by like March, I want to take them to New Orleans. And I
ooh,
feel like that, but I mean obviously like if the world isn't crazy then
yeah.
but then I'm also like that's probably too soon. They're gonna be like, "Oh my God, you want to travel with me?" And like
I
we've
mean,
only
I'll
known
tell
each other.
you, my crush, we spent like a year. It took us 6 months to meet in person. We met on Tinder during the pandemic across the country. Finally met in person 6 months in. took almost a year in to have sex, and that only happened because I like almost ended it, and we ended up going to Palm Springs for a weekend. And so like 11 months in, we finally, and that was our second time hanging out in person. We like spent a weekend in Palm Springs. So just saying, it
Yeah.
probably like you guys have already hung out together, like, overnight, enough times probably. That
Uh,
probably would be fun.
yeah, we've actually only spent the night together like 3 times because I hate sharing a bed.
Yeah, okay, that's fair.
Like
That's fair.
I literally will just always be like, I will go home, thank you. Like I just love being on my own bed, so I'm always like, yeah, I just will. You could take me home. I'm just gonna go home. And then
That's
there's been
totally
like a few
fair.
times where I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll spend the night because it's so late.
Yeah. But I
And then I'm
mean,
just like, we're
and you
both
do it
like
for a trip.
yeah, and I'm like, we're both getting miserable sleep, right?
I mean, I guess on a trip you can always get like a queen with two beds if you really want it, like two queens.
So yeah, I mean, I'm not above it.
I
I'm
see
good.
this is that chart ruler like solo in the eighth house, like opposing everything else. It's like I love you, but like I still need my space.
Like, yeah, like if I mean, if like, why not be comfortable? Like,
Yeah, I get
because
that. I hear
convention
that.
says that you gotta be in a bed. Like, what?
Also, like Aries moon, Aries moon, like there's just something, there's an independence to us that is just like you got to maintain. You got to
Yeah,
maintain it. I hear
okay,
that.
yeah. Like, you can't tell me what to do.
I think like your ideal person, correct me if I'm wrong, is like very low key, very cultured, funny, but on the low. Like not someone that you're like, yes, that person's hilarious, but
No, I
someone you're
know.
just like, oh my God, you're like fucking
It's
hilarious,
funny,
like
yeah.
that type of
Like, yeah,
thing.
they're like their friends all know they're funny, but like
Right.
no
It's
one
like they're not like
suspects they're
out
funny.
here trying to be funny. They're
Yeah,
just like
I
a
don't know.
funny
I'll never
person.
date another comedian in my life. I'd never do that. I did it never again. 2 times.
Yeah.
It was the worst decision I ever made. I'll never do that again.
I would never date an astrologer, so I understand that. Um, but yeah, that plus like there's like a level of they just like they haven't they I wouldn't say figured out, but like they have a level of stability that is just like there. And that's something that like you don't have to worry about. They're not really worrying about. They just like have something about them that this inner glow sort of thing that just like keeps things running.
Yeah.
I feel like they're just someone that's like, and I would say has the same level of um, desire for exploration and just like variety and learning. Cause like, I almost feel like I can almost see like, yeah, I'm going to travel here. You can like meet me here for like 2 weeks. We'll travel together and then we'll go separate ways. And like,
Yeah.
cause I want to go over here and you want to go
Because
over
I have to
here.
go do this and I have to go do this. Yeah. I'm always
Yeah.
like, oh, if I have to like go to New York and do shows, like you could come and do and or if we happen to be in the same place, like I'm all about that.
Yeah. I mean, this is how you work with oppositions, folks. Like
Yeah.
you gotta recognize, you know, it's important that it's not even just boundaries, it's more about like distance, and being able to have perspective, which comes with distance. And it's like there's not everyone's going to fit into one sort of type of relationship box where you
Yeah.
can just like do the thing where you meet someone, you like, I'm going to spend all my time with you, let's live together,
Yeah,
let's get
there are
married,
those people who are
let's be
like, oh,
together
I want to be
forever.
and I want to be together and spend every moment with you. And like, I was watching some reality show. They were like, since we've been married, we've never spent less than 12 hours apart. And I was
Oh my
like, that's crazy. Like, what?
God.
Are you
Wow.
okay? Is that a cry for help? Like, I can't imagine that. And I don't know. I feel like I've just had more success with people who are comfortable with that distance and uh the people who haven't, like they'll just feel so like abandoned by me and like all, and it's just like it doesn't work.
Yeah, it doesn't work exactly. Yeah. I think definitely stay away from water signs. Unless it's a Scorpio with like a ton of
Yeah.
Sagittarius planets. You know what I mean? Like, or like a Scorpio with like, actually don't do Libra placements.
Not even
I
a
don't.
Libra rising. Oh no.
I mean, no, Libra rising you can do.
Okay.
But like I don't like planets in this 12th can be difficult. Not all the time, but you have like the Aries moon, like the Aries Libra opposition. I have it in my chart, and I'm just like, it's 12th house stuff is hard already. You don't need someone in your blind spot, basically.
Yeah.
But yeah, I
Uh,
like fire
yeah,
for you. I like
I
Earth.
dated a Libra moon, and that was like the worst relationship.
Same. No offense to Libra moons at
No
all.
offense. No, but
It's the dynamic with the Aries moon. It's really difficult because your like base needs, is like core needs are opposing, and you have
yeah.
opposite moons, and it can be difficult. I mean, for me, it was like it felt so being in relationships with this person felt so threatening to like my identity,
Yeah.
and it's like, well, what are people going to think about me being in
Yeah.
relationship to you?
And
And for
yeah.
them, it was like, the ultimate insult to not want to be like completely enmeshed and like
Yeah,
partnered.
exactly. And partnered, and they wanted to just be so us, and like they had this vision of this person was also a comedian, of course, and it was like they
Mm,
were like
power couple.
power couple, we're gonna do that, like, and for me it was it took me a while to realize, like, oh, they're trying to use my name to help themselves, and like
Yeah.
realizing, like, oh no. And then I just was, I need to like stand on my own and like build my name and like show people what I've done, like, I don't know, especially when you're a woman, like I think it's so easy for people to pin any success you have on any man you date.
Oh,
And
hell
this was
yeah.
like this is like someone I dated for like 5 months, and I'd already been working in comedy and doing stand up for like 3 years at this point. And there were people who were so eager to be like, oh, like the only reason you're successful is because you dated this person. And it's like, no, not at all. Like,
Damn. I
and
mean,
they just kind of
yeah.
wanted to feed off of that, I felt like. And it was just like this, them loving it and me just being like, oh, absolutely not, like, don't talk about me that way, like, don't see me like I'm not, like, our careers are our own thing.
Right, right. Yeah. Yeah, you need that separation. You need that
Yeah.
separation. It makes a lot of sense. Do you have any other questions or things that you're wondering about?
I guess like anything career wise, I don't know, like anything I should just look out for in 2022. Like I feel like I'm excited by everything you've said. So
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think career-wise, definitely the standout parts, in my opinion, would probably be when Jupiter squares your sun and when Jupiter trines your sun. And it's going to trine your sun 2 times this year. So so the square is going to be soon. It's like February, I think. Oh, it's January. So at the end of this month, um, around like the 23rd, 24th, around that time, it's going to square your sun when it goes through Pisces. So are you working on something creative right now?
uh yeah, I got like some tour stuff I'm working on, and like clips I got to send out for things.
Cool.
So,
Yeah. It could be like some opportunity comes in, or, you know, it could be financial too, because Jupiter does rule your second house. So, excuse me, that's like the ruler of your second house, Jupiter, is going to be in this position to be able to do a lot, to give a lot, have a lot of opportunities. It's going to come into contact with the ruler of your midheaven, your career, um, a couple times. So yeah, it feels like there are like these points. So we'll map those out late January,
okay. I
and
probably need
then
to finish some work then. I need to finish writing things.
we'll see if you're listening to this. It will be in February or afterwards. So We'll see. We'll check back in. No, you don't
Yeah,
check back in.
get my scripts finished, get my bio updated. Like,
We're gonna have people like tweeting at you, like, "Did you do your stuff?"
yeah, did you get
Uh,
your work done? What happened? And I'm gonna be like, oh shit.
um, but yeah, June,
Oh, there's gonna be so
June of
many
this
tweeting
year.
people like, oh my god, what did your crush say? And I'm gonna be like, oh god.
Shit. No. Um, but yeah, early June is a really interesting time. We get both Mars and Jupiter in Aries. So they're going to come trine your sun. Mars is going to come through, like hit your moon, hit that grand trine. So that just feels like a lot of work too. It's just like, okay, there's shit to do. Like you're going to be like kind of just working a lot. Um, but yeah, Jupiter, that's when Jupiter comes to trine your sun, which is like mid-June, the first like it's like the second week of June. And then it kind of does like and retrogrades, goes back, stops at 8 degrees of Aries. And then it's gonna come back to trine your sun again in September. Like the second week of September. So we got June, September, yeah, and then it comes back again early next year in January again
Okay.
for the final trine. So those just that looks like important because at the same time when it hits your sun it also hits your Mars too because you have the sun Mars opposition and
Yeah.
Mars rules your sixth house of work. So it feels like it's just everyone that's involved in like career stuff for you. By everyone I mean the planets kind of communicating with each other a lot next year, and it's like trines, it's sextiles, it's like ease, things are just like flowing and happening, and it's like you lighting a match and it's kind of like throwing it on. Don't throw it in the
Yeah.
don't do forest fires, but
Yeah, but I gotta be a spark.
yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's exciting. I feel like while all that stuff's happening, it's like it feels like you get time in between to sort of like exhale though this year,
Yeah.
which I
I've
think
gotten
is
a lot
important.
better at saying no to things and slowing down and
It's hard, especially with an Aries moon. I know it's hard. It's hard for
yeah.
me.
You just want to like do everything and say yes to everything and then you're like, "Oh wait." Yeah.
Yeah, like fuck. I'm burnt out now. Um, but yeah, okay. So that's what I would say in terms of
Okay.
um it's just like it feels like the major standout moments are relationship stuff. I feel like that's the stuff that's gonna really like hit, and like that's the stuff that's gonna like come up when you think about 2022 in the future.
Yeah.
Um, but
Okay.
at the same time, there's gonna be definitely a lot of career stuff that it's just happening. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's not
It's
stuff that
like
you're
it's
really
all
like
like
fighting for.
new relationship energy, like no exes coming back. It's just
Unless it's happening like during this retrograde, it feels new.
yeah.
This retrograde could definitely kick up some past stuff, but it feels moving forward, all the Uranus energy, like North Node, Uranus finally getting to your descendant, like it feels like it's just like things are starting to get electric and unexpected. Like it's gonna be stuff that you can't really, it's you're not gonna see it coming.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, great. Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm excited. Well, hopefully, we'll be able to like hang out again.
Yeah, hopefully the
Omicron chills down.
world, yeah, chills out and we're all like hanging out again and the world's
Exactly.
wonderful.
I mean, Mexico City too, cross fingers.
Yes.
That would be
I'm
great
in.
to just go chill somewhere else outside of this country.
Yeah. It's been so long for me. I need to travel. Yeah.
Yeah. Sag life. I get it.
Yeah. Like
So you have you have a lot going on. Do you have, I mean, I guess, do you know what shows you're going to be playing in like late February, March?
uh let me look at my calendar. I actually do think I have shows like scheduled then. I'm gonna be in Chicago for Tomorrow Never Knows Festival, and that's like January 20th. And then I'll be back in LA doing shows. I have February 10th, my monthly show at the Airliner in LA on Broadway. I
Cool.
co-host that with Babs Gray. It's a really good time. And February 17th, I will be in New York for Niles Abstin's Basement Fest. So I'll be
Cool.
out on the East Coast doing shows. And then February 23rd, I'll be back in LA doing a show on the 23rd that I just put in my calendar as Jake's show.
Jake's
So
show. Okay,
gonna
cool.
guess Jake Knoll will get the info on that one, but shows are yeah.
I
Just
mean, the
head to my
point is,
website, yeah.
yeah, follow, what's your website?
TheAshleyRay.com, or just follow me on Twitter at the Ashley Ray, Instagram at the Ashley Ray. I post all my shows and stuff.
Cool. Yeah. And I've seen Ashley do stand up and she's actually hilarious. I mean, not that I had to say
Thanks.
actually, I know you know that.
And people never know what to expect. They're like, "Oh yeah, she's funny on Twitter. I didn't know she did stand," and it's like, "Yeah, I've actually
That's like what
that's
you
what I've been
do.
doing. Yeah, that's what I do actually." So it's always fun to like see people come out and they're like, "Oh my God, I wasn't expecting that." Like, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, you're great. So definitely, I'm definitely going to try to come out again, out here in LA. Definitely follow on Twitter. Hilarious Twitter follow. Definitely worth the follow. I'm happy that you post your tweets on Instagram.
yeah.
Um,
I pull out the best because it can be a mess to try to follow. You're just like, I don't, it's there's so much.
yeah, I mean, I stopped going on Twitter for the most part. So
Yeah,
that's why
it's a
I'm
very
grateful.
overwhelming app, and anyone who can stay away from it, I think, is brave and strong and good and doing the right thing.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for doing this. This is so fun.
Thanks for having me. This was awesome.
And yeah, follow Ashley and we'll talk to you again
Yeah.
soon.